Welcome to the CRF250L Turbo playlist. Good, bad, or other, I'm going to show you what I did, problems I ran into, how it turned out in the end, everything. So my plan is get a finished product, show everyone that, and then do the playlist. Hopefully it'll be a victory at the end, and I can show you how I did it later. So the bike I'm putting it on is a 2013 CRF250L. I've done all kinds of work to it in the past. You can check my videos for that. Most notably, I did a big bore kit with a big installation series with step-by-step instructions, like you can watch me do it, everything you have to do to put one in. And I also did a sidecar on it. Not many people did that. There's some over in Thailand, they use them for like food carts and stuff, but I don't know anyone else who's actually done one in the States. So anyway, turbo time, because why not? I'm really good at rebuilding the top end of these things. My big bore kit failed, so I've been in the engine a few times. I thought, why not try a turbo, and then after this just leave it stock configuration and just ride it, because if you don't open these engines up, they go forever. I like to tinker, which gets me in trouble. So this is a turbo. You can see it on eBay and Amazon. It's the $130 one. Every guy like me sees and is like, I want to put that on my lawnmower, my motorcycle, my go-kart, or snowmobile, whatever. So here it is. Most of the builds I see with these, they only feed them oil. They don't liquid cool them. I'm going to try and do both if I've got the electrical power on the bike to do it, that is. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I've done a little bit of work to it. I'll put what the turbo is right here, and any product or thing I mention, if I remember where I got it from, or if I Google it and find it, whatever, I'll put a link down in the description. So here's the turbo. I've got an air intake adapter on here so I can put a filter on there, which is currently on its way. Just a thin metal flange on there. There's not heat on this side, so I'm not worried about that warping. Same with the charge tube. And what makes me mad is I lost the gaskets to this, so I'm gonna have to use like silicone or something. It did come with metal gaskets, which would have been nice. So this piece of pipe is just on here because it's what I had. I'm gonna have to pie cut this and put an angle on it. Yeah, air filter adapter. I've got the exhaust flange on here, much thicker metal. And I've got a little stub of exhaust pipe on there. I've got this big plate on the bottom cut to size, and I don't have a hole cut out here yet because I don't know if I'm going to be putting this big 90 on there, try and cover both the exhaust and the wastegate, or if I'm just going to put a little stubby 90 on there, or if I'm going to try and make some kind of pipe to get it away from myself, or what. So that's why there's no hole in there. And this pipe here is actually off of a CRF250 sport bike header. I got that real cheap off of eBay and chopped it up. This flange here, I just didn't want to make one of these, and I didn't want to make one of these. For the price that this header cost me, I got some useful bends out of it. I got the, this spout assembly and everything. So it was worth it. To get the factory pipe out of this collar, what you do is you stick a hole saw in here, and I can't remember what size it was, but it fit just perfect. It was a standard inch size, and I drilled that weld out, and then I used a punch and knocked the pipe out. So you can see I've still got Honda numbers on there, but I'm just going to go in there and just TIG weld that, and then grind this nice and flat, or probably file it flat. So I've got that spout ready to go. I might need an exhaust hanger of some sort. I got a couple useful bends out of it. And as a bonus, these header pipes on the CRF250 and the CBR250, they're actually double wall pipe. So this is what it looks like on the outside. That's not the actual diameter of your header, it's this, because that pipe fits inside there like that. So when you go to an aftermarket pipe like an FMF Mega Bomb or Power Bomb or a Yoshimura header, and it's bigger than this, it's a really big increase because the stock header is not very big. But anyway, because it's double wall, the pipe on the inside is actually a perfect match for the double engine bike I'm building back here with two 125cc engines. Just a happy coincidence that that works. I've got all kinds of scrap pipe laying around. I've got some stainless steel bends and pipe, and I've got all the metal I need to do this. And like I said with this, you have to feed it oil, and I don't want to do invasive stuff to the engine to be able to run this. So I'm going to run a separate oil system. I'm going to build a little tank to go underneath the turbo. Oil will come out of the turbo into this tank. It'll then go into a pump. It'll pump it up to an oil cooler and then into the top of the turbo, and it'll just gravity drain back out to the sump. I've got the pump on order, but I'm not sure the bike's got the electrical capabilities to run it. It's 2.5 amps with no load. It's 5 amps with load. It might be a lot, I don't know. I do have LED headlights, so that saves some amps. I don't know, I'll just have to see if it works or if it burns out a stator, and I get to make a how-to video on replacing a stator. For liquid cooling, what I want to do is get a 12 volt fuel pump, just a little one, like 7 psi for carbureted engines. They don't take hardly any amperage, and I want to use that to pump some coolant around. Where I'm returning it to is not very invasive. This is a very cheap part for this bike. So I got to figure out a pickup, which I'll talk about in a minute, but the coolant will then go into this little 12 volt fuel pump. It can pump coolant, that's not going to hurt it, through the turbo, and then it's going to return it to the thermostat housing. Now I used that aluminum brazing rod you can see on YouTube and Facebook ads, at least I do because I'm into that sort of thing. And I took a brass hose barb and I put it into an aluminum housing. So I just used a MAP gas torch, heated this up. I just had a hole big enough to slide this in. It's not threaded. And I put a little bit of that around the outside and, as you can see, around the inside. And I just spray painted this a color that was close because when I heated this up, it burned all the paint off. But that's where I'm going to return it because it's on the radiator side of the thermostat. So that coolant will go up to the radiator, get cooled, come back. Now, the way I think I'm going to pick up coolant is to take this real thin stainless pipe I've got here and get a silicone coupler and put that on here and put it on the water pump on the right side crankcase. And then this will go to the lower radiator hose. And then I'm just going to put a hose barb in here, pull coolant off of here, which is cold coolant that came from the radiator, pump it through the turbo, and then it will go back to the radiator. That coolant from the turbo does not go into the engine, and I'm not pulling coolant away from the engine and then, hot coolant out of the engine and putting it in the turbo. The way I had initially thought to do it was pull it from here. And what this pipe is, right here, it's the pipe that connects the cylinder head to the right side crankcase. And it's actually a return for the water pump. So when the water pump is running, the engine's running, it's making heat, water pump pumps coolant around the cylinder head and the cylinder, and then it goes up against the thermostat. If it's not up to temperature, that thermostat stays closed. A tiny little trickle goes out to the radiator, but 99% of that coolant gets circled back around to this tube. So it hits that thermostat, nope, closed, we got to go somewhere else. So it comes back through here to the water pump and goes around again. And that circuit is to warm your engine up quickly and keep it at the right temperature. So that thermostat throttles back and forth to keep your engine at an optimal temperature for how it's meant to run. So I thought, I'll just drill a little hole in this pipe, weld a coupler to it, put a hose barb on it, I can pull coolant off of there. The problem with this is, and actually I've just made up my mind, scrap bucket. The problem with that is you're pulling hot engine coolant out and feeding that to your turbo, so it might not cool it at all. And you could potentially start boiling that coolant, because if the engine's running at, let's just say you're up to temperature, you've been out riding a while, that engine's at 195 degrees, and you pull that 195 degree coolant out and put it in a turbo and it heats it up more, you could be 220, 230, 240 boiling that coolant. And yes, I know that's higher than boiling temperature of water. Coolant is there to have a higher boiling point. But if you cook that coolant, that's no good. So scrap bin, I'm gonna pull it off of that lower radiator hose before it gets to the water pump to the engine, so it'll just have its own little circuit. It'll still return here. So that's where I'm at. That's what I'm doing. The next episode we'll look at actually starting to install the exhaust piping to hang this turbo in place. I don't know where the turbo's going. I'm assuming to the right of the engine and a little bit forward, not behind the tire, just to the engine's here, right side a little bit. I think that's where it's going. I think the oil reservoir is going to go on the skid plate to the right, the pump for that skid plate to the left, if I've got room. If that pump doesn't work, I'm probably going to use 2 of those little electric 7 psi carburetor car fuel pumps, one for oil, one for coolant. We'll see. We'll learn as we go. So like I said, the air filter and that big pump are on the way. So until next time, make sure you're subscribed. I'll be adding videos pretty frequently here. So let's see how it turns out.